So here we're going to go on what we mean when we talk about environment and health. So what do we mean when we talk about environmental health? Environmental health is the freedom from illness or injury due to exposure to factors in the physical environment that are potentially detrimental to human health. And this is by the U.S. EPA. Environmental health and protection is defined as the art and science of protecting against environmental factors that may adversely impact human health or adversely impact the ecological balances essential to long-term human health and environmental quality. There are 6 themes in Healthy People 2020 that have to do with environmental health. The federal government gives relevance to the relationship between health and environment risks and the underlying factors contributing to the disease. So these are the 6 themes that have to do with Healthy People 2020, the objectives, and environmental health, and you can certainly read about those. Here are some of the issues that are prevalent in global communities today. What happens with deforestation? Well, it results in eliminating natural habitats for many plant and animal species, causes soil erosion. It has something to do with changes in climate, with hydrologic cycle changes. Burning forest lands contributes to vast quantities of pollutants in the air, and it contributes to global warming through release of greenhouse gases. Global warming. It is estimated that atmospheric concentration of carbon dioxide in 1994 was 760 billion tons compared to 590 billion tons prior to industrialization. This increase is believed to increase Earth's energy absorption by 1%, resulting in increased growth rates for insects and parasites, leading to crop destruction and infectious diseases, melting of the polar ice cap, rising sea levels posing dangers of flooding, and heat-related mortality from increasing temperature and humidity. What about ozone depletion? The ozone is the protective stratospheric layer that is gradually being destroyed by chemical interactions between air pollutants and primarily chlorofluorocarbons. The result is increased incidence of skin cancer and also global warming, which leads to issues presented on the previous slide. What is planetary toxification? This is the accumulation of various wastes with their consequent environmental effects. I'm going to give you just a little bit of an estimate of what communities throw away. 38.6% of paper and paperboard, 12.8% of yard waste, 10% food waste, 9.9% plastic, 7.5% metals, 5.5% glass, 5.3% wood, 3.8% textiles, and 3.3% other, and also 3% rubber and leather. We have an awful lot of waste. So what problem does overpopulation cause? The total population increased from 180.6 million people in 1960 to 270.5 million in 1998, and this is in the U.S., with a projected growth to almost 394 million by the year 2050. In 1850, the world population was 1 billion. The next doubling was 80 years later to 2 billion in 1930. The next took only 45 years to 4 billion in 1975. So what are the results of this overpopulation? Food shortages, water shortages, the social effects of unemployment, illiteracy, insufficient housing, poverty resulting in political unrest are just some of the issues that occur. Let's talk a little bit about pollution. Pollution can enter our bodies through the lungs, the GI tract, the skin, or the mucous membranes. Most chemicals can cross placental barriers and the blood-brain barrier as well. Air quality should be assessed with regards to outdoor quality as well as indoor quality. And you can certainly find out some of this data on the Florida websites. Exposure to natural ionizing radiation is greater in some parts of the country than others, depending on the extent of radioactive elements found. Radon, which is a radioactive gas created by the breakdown of radium occurring naturally in soil and in many building materials, is implicated in 10 to 14% of lung cancer deaths. Medical and dental x-rays produce approximately 11% of human exposure to ionizing radiation. Nuclear medicine treatment accounts for another 4%. Other forms of ionizing radiation are smoke detectors using americium, some tinted glasses, glazes on dentures, Fiesta ware china, oh, and I love Fiesta ware, and tobacco. Evidence reveals long-term exposure to low levels of ionizing radiation may have cumulative effects. With regards to heavy metals, the use of lead-based paint was prohibited in 1977, but it is still an issue throughout houses built prior to 1978. Other sources of lead are drinking water, vehicle emissions, stationary source, fuel combustion, industrial processes, and decomposition of solid waste. If a house is located near a highway, the inhabitants of that house are more apt to have higher lead levels than someone in a rural area. Other heavy metals that we need to be concerned about are mercury, arsenic, which is found in pesticides and herbicides. Water is contaminated by the runoff in agricultural areas when they use pesticides to spray the plants. Cadmium can affect our drinking water, mixing lemonade in a metal container, for instance. Noise pollution. In addition to the physiological effect of noise on hearing, evidence suggests that prolonged exposure to noise contributes to increased anxiety and emotional stress. So it might cause irritability, depression, diminished work productivity, insomnia, skin problems, hypertension, and cardiac dysrhythmias. Health effects are a function of both intensity of sound and duration of exposure. Exposure to daily average noise levels of 85 decibels can produce mild but many irreversible hearing loss, and many everyday noises are above this level, such as baby crying, a lawnmower, city traffic, all exceed this level. I know that there are certain jobs where people are exposed to high decibels of hearing issues and noises, and these people, by OSHA standards, are usually recommended to have testing every year. With regards to water pollution, sources of this could be acid rain, manufacturing industries, which I already brought up, mining operations, underground storage of chemicals, septic tanks, use of salt and de-icing chemicals on highway. We see a lot of that up in the colder climates. Sewage sludge. There's approximately 7 million tons produced in the U.S. yearly. Health effects from ingestion, inhalation of vapors and aerosols during showers, cooking, and dermal absorption during direct contact with contaminated water can cause or have effects on bladder and colorectal cancer, CNS effects, skin irritation, alopecia, peripheral neuropathy, seizures, hepatitis and cirrhosis, infertility, congenital anomalies, developmental disabilities, anemia, renal failure, esophagitis, gastritis, stomach CA, and heart disease. Boy, that list was endless. So when assessing the environmental influences on your population health, you might want to look at these questions. The environmental conditions have the potential to influence the health of the population? How do these conditions affect the health? What is the extent of the influence on the health? What segments of the population are most likely to be adversely affected by environmental conditions, and why? What factors contribute to the presence and influence of environmental conditions within the population? What barriers exist to improving the environmental conditions? If you find that you have a problem with the environmental issue within the community that you're assessing and analyzing, what can you do and how can you help? And is the people that live in that community in a place where they would want to help? I mean, what is the attitude of the members of the population? What priority is given to environmental health issues, and what barriers exist? So what you want to look at also is the potential for eliminating hazardous conditions, the potential for limiting human exposure, and what actions will be required to address the environmental health concerns within your population. Does the healthcare system in your population contribute to environmental health hazards? Is the healthcare system adequate to address environmentally caused diseases? And are the healthcare providers prepared to recognize and treat the diseases caused by the environment? Okay, so let's talk about planning to improve the environmental health and what can you do or what can be done. Well, with regards to primary prevention, you want to direct your interventions toward modifying or eliminating hazards or reducing potential for exposure. This includes prevention and education as a primary prevention strategy. For secondary prevention, you'll be identifying and resolving existing health problems caused by environmental conditions using surveillance. For tertiary prevention, you want to prevent reoccurrence and complications of environmentally caused health problems by use of quick medical interventions. Governmental environmental protection is seen through permitting, which is a process of control, environmental standards, so permitted level of emissions, maximum containment level, action level for environmental cleanup, and risk-based calculation. The Protection Agency has an ongoing monitoring system, and there are requirements with compliance and enforcement that they have, as well as cleanup and remediation. And with regards to cleanup and remediation, if it's not done within a certain amount of time, then fines can be levied against the facility, community, or whatever. So as far as advocacy in the area of environmental health, environmental justice is when you can prevent certain populations, usually poor communities, from disproportionately experiencing certain illnesses or diseases based upon the environment where they live, like near dumps, incinerators, old buildings with lead paint, etc. Environmental health threats in the healthcare industry are activities such as reducing use of mercury-containing products, lowering levels of persistent bioaccumulative toxins, those are PBTs, and dioxins, has grown into an international campaign called Healthcare Without Harm, found by the ANA. The role of the nurse in environmental health, well, they'll become involved in the community and they'll ask for public participation. They'll do a risk assessment on the individual and the population. They'll communicate the risk and do some education. They'll involve epidemiologic investigations and develop policy. There is no one resource for environmental health, but the National Library of Medicine's Toxtown can be a worthy starting place. This is a website providing information on toxins and environmental health where you live. The EPA is another wealth of information about toxins and the environment. If you actually go to Toxtown, there is a little interactive thing that you can participate in with regards to, the toxins in your house and stuff. It's an animated thing, and it's kind of for a lower level, but it's not a bad thing to experience. Thank you.